Lole-Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Today I rise on behalf of New Zealand First to speak to the bill at its committee stage. I think we all agree that law and order is very important to our country. It is crucial not only to maintain order in our society, but also to ensure safety and maximise security for all New Zealanders. We are all aware that some of our citizens continue to break the law, and some fail to behave in accordance with the law, and some just don't know any better. So it is possible to imagine that human perfection is likely to happen anytime sooner. And New Zealand First supports the move to remove barriers in managing offenders in the community in a manner that is safe, that is humane, secure, effective, and of course efficient. It is important that New Zealanders have confidence in our justice system, that offenders are made accountable for their actions to the community they have offended against. It is therefore crucial that the way we manage offenders in our communities is done with no room for any mistakes or any errors. We all know the consequences of mistakes. It leaves communities worried about their safety, something that we should not allow to happen. This week, we read in the news of a 19-year-old and his girlfriend who violated a young 10-year-old girl. The administration of Community Sentencing and Orders Bill must close loopholes that could lead to this kind of immoral and unacceptable behaviour in our community. The Select Committee report proposed amendments that intended to improve the original bill. Those amendments are encouraging. Community-based sentences were introduced in New Zealand for many reasons. It would be interesting to see a report of any improvements since its introduction. They are to reduce the incarceration and relieve prisons overcrowding and offer a more appropriate sentence to crimes of less gravity and reduce costs to the Department of Corrections. So why then, after 2 decades of non-custodial sentences being introduced, we have become a nation with too many people in our correction system? Why is it that our government continues to look for more ideas to be productive in building more prisons or enhance the high incarceration statistics in New Zealand? Are people in New Zealand committing more crime, or are people just enjoying being involved in criminal activities? It is time for us to look at other techniques to prevent crime, and is this bill the answer? I think it's a crucial question. This bill seeks to ensure we don't trap people in a web where they constantly come in and out of prison, wasting their life and adding more burden to the taxpayers. New Zealand First, according to the Part 2 and 3, when I read through it, New Zealand First knows the provision allowing community magistrates to alter or cancel a community-based sentence previously imposed by a community magistrate. It means that this will allow the Chief Executive of the Department of Corrections to approve changes of address or home or community detention. Hopefully not the same mess created by the Best of Plenum, but while New Zealand First recognises the valid intention behind this approach, I would like to mention here the need for accountability to be maintained. Shifting administrative responsibility should not create cover-up or loopholes of accountability or for accountability. This bill has also been amended to allow a probation officer, rather than the court, to direct up to 20% of a community work sentence of at least 80 hours to be spent in training. This is a good initiative. This is a good way forward. As a strong advocate for rehabilitation and reintegration, I cannot emphasise more the need for probation services and corrections to work together to manage community-based sentences. This bill, in general, will give probation officers more powers in directing a portion of community work sentences to training. Reducing barriers to enable training for offenders should be encouraged. Yes, offenders need training, but New Zealand First asks, to what cost to the taxpayer? How many community work sentence offenders actually need training? This information is important, would necessitate funding for relevant resources as well. From previous reports, There are concerns that with Mr. Chair,
Lole-Taylor.
with the increase in imposing community services, there is evidence that those sentenced to community service are more likely to be those who would otherwise have received fines but could not afford them. It will be crucial that probation officers use these new proposed powers with discretion. No doubt there will be conflicting ideas and difference of opinion between what the judiciary and what probation officers may recommend. In terms of sentencing hierarchy, we are making a change here through this bill, giving what were once the powers of the judge to the probation officers. And guess what that means? I believe what it means is that the Minister has complete confidence in the probation services to perform these vital roles for New Zealanders. Does she? I would like to hear a response from the Minister, or taking a call in answering this question, and what evidence does she have to confirm her decision. It is interesting to see the recommendation that a court may not cancel or replace the first sentence if that sentence was imposed at the High Court or Higher Court. Instead, remit the matter to the court that imposed the first sentence. Let's just hope that the High Court will always, or Higher Court will always get it right. Consistency in our judiciary system is important, and administration of community sentencing and orders must always be aligned across all government departments. If something is to be implemented, it should be done to the best of one's ability to achieve the maximum quality results. However, to do so, one needs the right tools to do the job. Probation services will need to be sufficiently resourced to ensure that mandatory pre-sentence reports are done to the correct and higher standard. This will also ensure that when offenders are directed to training, probation services have the time to organise the best appropriate programs for offenders, not someone who just comes off the road and say that I can do this, I can deliver it, just because I can talk to the prisoner, I have the best program to ensure that this person does not offend again. In recent years, there have been a lot of cases where placements and programs for various offenders have been poorly assessed. A probation officer can now review the suitability of the home detention residence or curfew address. This is when the court defers the commencement of a second sentence of home or community detention for more than 2 months. It indicates that for the purpose of determining when post-detention conditions commence, any concurrent or cumulative home detention sentences be treated as a notional single sentence. The other part of the proposed amendments include where an appeal against home detention sentence is unsuccessful, and there is a requirement for the registrar of the appeal to notify the controlling officer of the relevant probation area and the offender if they are not in court of the date on which the sentence resumes. So community safety is vital and absolutely a priority for our nation. And New Zealand First strongly believes that to achieve law and order effectively in our nation, the public should have the confidence in our judiciary, our police and the correction system. And I believe we can all accept the fact that for a nation our size, we have far too many people in our correction system. Let me once again remind the national government that a genuine government is not a searcher for consensus, but a moulder of consensus. So New Zealand First supports the initiative to fix up the loopholes and what this bill intends to do.
Call Jacinda Ardern.
Thank you, Mr.